there. Hi, welcome to Ace Culture Is. I'm Sascha and I'm an Arrow Ace non-binary. My pronouns are they, them, and am, air. Please use those or any preferred pronouns I have approved on my Tumblr, or else your comment will be deleted. We have a guest again. This is Eli. Hi, Eli.
Hello.
He is here again, and his pronouns are he, him, or they, them. Please use those to refer to him, or your comment will be deleted. Thank you. Now, this video, before I go into it, here's a trigger warning. This does talk about sex, and about this double standard of sex. And this also has a brief moment of rape. If I get the chance, I will try and add a timestamp in the description. But please, if that makes you very squicky, if it triggers you, please feel free to look away from this video. Now, on to the video. Society's double standard with sex. It's more than a double standard. As a disclaimer, this is USA centric. I have not talked about race in this, as I am white, and for obvious reasons, I have not experienced racism, and I'd rather not speak over people of colors, voices with how they're sexualized because of their race. So race is left out of this. But I am talking about queer people, as I am queer, and I'm talking about the difference between masculine and feminine people, as well as non-binaries. Also, my voice sounds dead because I'm now part of a praise team, and apparently singing gospel at the loudest voice I can into a microphone, hitting pitches I'm not used to hitting, for like 2 hours straight is not good for my voice. On to the video. For women/feminine people. First of all, if you don't have sex, you're a prude. I am seen as feminine and as a woman, as I am closeted, and my father has straight up told me that I am a prude. You must be an virgin, but also sultry. This is shown in Bella Porch's, I'm sorry if I said that wrong, song, Build a Bee, which a line, an actual lyric from the song is a virgin and a vixen. Because apparently you must be both. But if you have a law of sex, you are a slut. And that's not meant in an affectionate term. It's meant in a derogatory term. And the way you dress reflects how people treat you and make you more likely to be blamed for being raped. Do you have anything to comment about that?
Yeah, when it happened to me and I went to report it to the police, there was a very heavy emphasis when they were questioning me, like, what were you wearing, where you were at. This was before I had transitioned to male, so, I was viewed as a girl high school student who was reporting this very traumatic incident, and some of their first questions were, how was I presenting myself to the person who raped me? It was like they were trying to find an excuse for them.
I have never been raped, but my father, who is a very hypocritical man at best, has told me, and I've overheard him talking about me to his family. I dress very conservatively because of dysphoria and because I don't like people looking at my body. And he has said, I'm glad that they dress conservatively. Not that there's anything wrong with the way, not that there's anything wrong with wearing short skirts, but you know what that invites. The way someone dresses and the way someone acts should not be an invitation. Obviously, there are certain ways you need to dress, like in church. You obviously, it's probably not a good idea to show up half naked, but in general, the way you dress shouldn't affect how people treat you, and especially should not invite that sort of stuff.
Well, the way you dress in church is more of like a respectful thing to God. When it's just your personal life going around, you should be able to express yourself without having to worry about someone else using that as an excuse to do things to you.
Exactly. Wearing a bikini to a swimming park to swim to a pool should not make people stare at you and think, oh well, you know. Like, I want
Right.
to wear a crop top. I'm just not allowed to. Moving on, for men/masculine people, oh, this is going to be a doozy. If you don't have sex, you're a loser, which is portrayed in the wonderful movie that I absolutely love and do not hate at all, The 40-Year-Old Virgin. Despite the fact the man can cook and has a stable job, because he's a virgin, he's a loser. You must be intense and quote unquote sexy. Must always think about sex. You have to always think about sex. If you don't, you're not a true man. But if you do think about sex all the time, you're predatory and creepy. And you must have a lot of sex or you're not a quote unquote true man or you're not masculine enough. But not too much or you're a heartbreaker. And that means girls can't throw themselves at you. And trauma, of course, is sexy because that means you need to be fixed. Any comments?
Oh, I have many comments. Hi. Yes. So yeah, as a masculine person, I encounter a lot of these that you've listed. As opposed to, again, when I was a girl, if I was open about my sexual experiences, I was slut shamed. Now that I've transitioned to male and I'm more like socially transitioning, now if I talk about my sexual experiences, it's treated more as like an achievement or some sort of conquest that I have, which I hate. They're still people. Um, but yeah, like it's more like I'm more socialized to think like I should always be thinking about sex. Like sex jokes around me are a lot more prevalent. I've noticed a lot of like the media that I consume that is geared more towards masculine people has a lot more of a heavy emphasis on sex. But
Eh,
I also have to be very careful now that I know people see me as more masculine. I'm more aware of how I conduct myself so that I don't come across as predatory and creepy. And as well as like the trauma being sexy part of it, like who is, as I mentioned before, I went through the traumatic sexual experience. And like at one point, I was accused of faking being masculine so that my trauma could be perceived as like more under my control and more like romanticized, I guess, which so many layers of wrong to that.
a good way, the way that I have found out, a good way to see this trauma is sexy and trauma bonding. A great way to see that is in if you go on Wattpad and just look up fan fiction, or not fan fiction, just stories in general with a male and a female protagonist, you will find that a lot. And I need to link her channel, but Kendall does bad movies and beat, and it is very common for bad movies, bad romance movies that a lot of people consume, have that trauma bonding, have the trauma is sexy. I'll link to a video that she does describe with the trauma is sexy part, where she does go on her pedestal and mention that and talk about more in depth. She's more educated in that. Uh, my dad is very masculine and he consumes very trashy comedies that are geared towards masculine figures, and the way those movies geared towards more masculine people treat women is very very objectifying. And the same goes for trashy comedies that have females as their main protagonists as well.
I mean, it
Everyone's
doesn't even have to be to the extreme of like the trashy comedies and the trashy romance. I can think of like Disney movies where the main character is like, my parents died, my civilization is burned, I've been through so much trauma, look at me, I'm beautiful.
yeah. It's just easier to point out in trashy movies because no one likes those. But if you point that out in movies that people like, oh boy.
I'm stepping on toes and I don't care.
Let me grab my high heels. Okay, next one. This is for queer people, and everyone loves these. Your whole identity must be centered around sex. No, not just your sexuality, your gender too. You there Your sexuality and your gender must be sexualized. Must be around sex. But only when cis allo het people are comfortable with it. Gay men must either be big, strong, and sexy, or soft femme uwu boys. So women can, so as cishet women who fetishize them can project themselves onto the soft femme uwu boys. Lesbians must be wild and femme, and I forgot to mention this, but bisexual men don't exist, and bisexual women must never say they're bisexual, but instead say that they're experimenting. But you cannot be around children because you're too not safe for work, despite the fact society has centered your whole identity around sex. And if you're trans mask, you're ooh soft gay automatically. Doesn't matter if you're straight, doesn't matter if you're into women. No, you gotta be soft, you gotta be feminine, despite the fact that not all trans men are feminine, or not all trans mask people are feminine. Most of them are mask. If you're trans femme, you're big, tough, and mask. Because transphobia never existed. And if you're non binary, you must be skinny, white, and perfectly andro with an android like complexion. And you got to be sexy. Must be sexy. I have seen so many non binaries be called sexy. Any comments?
Yes, like the especially the can't be around children because you're too NSFW. That was the word, almost word for word, what I was told when I was fired. I was working as a camp counselor, and they told me that I could no longer work there because parents would be concerned about any sort of predatory nature from me, or that I wouldn't be safe around the campers. And the trans mask thing, the soft ooh, I experience that a lot when I come out as trans to people.
Um, there's so many. I just for non-binaries. I have very little like non-binary media I see, but one big example of a non-binary character I've seen, they were very this it was in a kids show, so like it was in the new Shira. It was a kids show, and I do like to admit I do like how this was Double Trouble. I do like how they were portrayed, but I do have like one issue with it. And again, this is a kids show, so you can't really do much. But they were very flirty in kind of a way that was kind of off, if that makes sense. I could
Yeah,
just be it could just be because I'm Ace. It could just be because they are a villain, and that's just how they are. And if that's it, then that's fine. But I've seen a lot of sexualizing non-binaries. Like you have to be this perfect, sexy figure, and ironically, the way people portray you as andro is somehow feminine leaning.
you must be irresistible to every queer person, and every straight person must question whether or not you're actually human.
Yes, pretty much. And sure, it's funny a few times, but when you're a minor and ace, it gets real annoying real quick. Cause
If it was a niche representation thing, I think it would be a little more like okay. But the fact that that's the main representation y'all get.
yeah. Now I could be wrong. I could be. I've heard mentions of a non-binary person in Steven Universe I have not watched, but but I
Um,
only know of
I
two,
have seen it. I've seen Steven Universe. Apparently, all of the gem characters are non-binary, but they all use she/her pronouns.
which is fine if you're a she her non-binary, but if that's all you get,
I,
not
I just thought I'd interject since I had seen the
right,
show.
right. Someone pointed out that I ignore the gross noises my dog is making, because he likes biting himself apparently. But I've seen people mention that that queerness is kind of portrayed in a more feminine light. And if you think about it, in actual popular media, how many of your gay men are feminine? How many of your queer characters are actually women? How many queer coded or queer male characters are feminine in some way? which really sucks because there are because yes, masculine trans women exist, but so do androgynous and feminine. Yes, feminine trans men exist, but so do masculine and androgynous trans masks. And non-binaries are all over the place. Not all of us use she/her pronouns. Not all of us use he/him pronouns. There is a lot of non-binaries that are completely masked, that are andro and that are feminine. I'm a non-binary that at the moment I have to be feminine, but when I'm able to transition more, I will be more androgynous and more masculine. Hold up, let me go smack my dog gently. What it? Okay. But queerness should not be portrayed in any light, really. It's just you're queer. That's it. Your queerness should just be that, not be feminine, masculine, androgynous, none of that. And especially
I
if you're
think the
talking
problem
about
is
sex.
I think the problem is these characters are they have so much emphasis on their queerness that the media forgets to portray them also as just people with their own individual personalities and expressions.
There's this one show I'm watching. I forgot the name of it. I'll have to look it up later, but it's on Netflix and it does feature a gay man. And the first episode, they really portrayed him sucky. He kept on flirting with with a straight man. It was very pushy. And when the straight
Oh,
man
geez, no.
when the straight man finally snapped, like he is allowed to, because if you are continuously flirting with someone who does not want to be flirted with and is very obviously not being flirted with, the dude snapped and said, "I'm not gay," and walked and like stormed off. The gay man said homophobia, and then later on in the episode, the gay man said, "Oh yeah, he's totally gay." That is completely wrong representation, not how you should portray gay men.
No.
But
No.
but I will say, since I was forced to sit down and watch that show, after the first episode, he did gather more of a personality. He is, it's the his gay being gay was not uh portrayed in a bad light. Suddenly, it's just he's gay, and this is his whole character
So
arc.
they toned down the predatory nature is what
Yes,
you're saying.
very much so. And he's not feminine. He doesn't act feminine. He thirsts over guys in a way that makes me uncomfortable, but it's very common in that show for the woman he is friends with to thirst over guys in the same way. The woman is, and he is a very loyal friend, all that. So it's always a mixed bag. So there is a good way. So that show, I'll have to look it up later if I can remember it. It is on Netflix. The plot is a girl runs off in the middle of the wedding with someone else, and it's about the groom, the ex groom, the ex bride, and their friends. It's a whole mess, but it's kind of cool. But yeah, that's the point. Is you can have good gay representation like that, and you can also have bad gay representation like that. Although I can't really speak much on it, as I'm not a gay man. I'm not even into men, so yeah. Now this was fun for aces. There's so little, but there's so much. Sex is illegal. You're not allowed to have sex. Sorry, if you're having sex, you're not ace. You must be an ooh so soft child. You gotta be. Since you don't have sex, you're just a child automatically. You gotta be babied. And you must be a virgin. Don't just forget the fact that some aces have sex because they like it or for different reasons. You must be a virgin. But you also have to have had sex to make sure. So you gotta be a virgin, but you also had to make sure, you know? Because you can't just look at something and decide, I don't like it. You gotta make sure. Yep. Which is, fun. Again, this is dangerous to minors. This is dangerous to minors to say you can't identify as ace just because you just can't know. It's very dangerous to actual asexuals who may or may not have sex for various different reasons. This can even be dangerous to people who don't identify as asexual, pushing them to have sexual relationships just because they don't want to be babied or stuff like that. Now, for arrows. If you don't have sex, you're ace. No questions asked, that's all you are. Because obviously, asexuality is the same as aromanticism, and the two can't live without the other. Of course. If you have sex, you must be in a romantic relationship or QPR, or else. You're also not truly an arrow. If you have sex without a romantic relationship or QPR, you're predatory. And only masked men/men can be arrow, not feminine or women or non-binaries. Nope, only men. Only those who are masculine. Any comments?
Yeah. This again goes into like I have to be very careful not to be seen as predatory because again I'm aloe arrow, so I do have a sex life, but I'm aromantic. I'm not in any sort of like romantic relationship or QPR at the moment, so um, like it also like makes me feel like I have to be very careful not to be seen as like the very prevalent stereotype in a lot of movies where you're seen as like cold and heartless. It's like you don't care about the love, you just want their bodies. And it's an icky feeling to watch a lot of movies where it's like the villain of the movie, you're like the the person who should be frowned upon in the TV show or whatever is the one who's like having sex with no like quote unquote real relationships. It's like there's something wrong with them.
Because people aren't complex creatures with complex feelings, especially queer people. No. Yeah, it's always
Right.
the way society treats sex is just so awkward and weird. And I would say a lot of it would be Christianity and the kind of I don't want to say because I'm Christian and I don't, and Eli's Christian, but Flower I don't cuss, so this is gonna be hard to say. Friggin', but the bad. I'm just gonna type it to you so you can say it. Give me a second, because I don't cuss because I cut. Oh yeah, this is a good time to mention that I don't cuss in real life. I only cuss online. So hold up. I'm just gonna type this to Eli.
Okay. So yes, I'm being given the message to translate. I had another point and then I forgot it.
Okay, so this
Okay.
type of version of Christianity it has been
Okay.
yeah the
Do you want me to say that word, or do you want me
just say that
to
word
translate it? Okay. The bastardization of Christianity.
and how and what I mean by that is you can't do this, you can't do this. If you're gay, you go to hell. Stuff like that. I'll discuss
Right.
that
It's
later on.
Christianity has been so twisted.
Yeah, basically that. So, in that version of Christianity, if you have sex before marriage, you are seen as horrible. But people obviously do have sex before marriage, and I don't know where the you have to have sex part came from. I can't speak on that because I don't really study society, but I can definitely recognize this sex shaming, the slut shaming, because I'm Christian. I go to a very queer phobic church. Let's just leave it at that. So I can pinpoint where the whole if you have sex you're bad, or if you have it before marriage or before a certain milestone you're bad and all that shaming. I know where that came from. That's come from a twisted version of Christianity where apparently loving our neighbors as you love yourself and loving your neighbors radically got thrown to the wayside despite it being the most important part of Christianity. Anyway, points aside, I don't know exactly why we came to this weird, messed up version of how sex should be, but honestly, in conclusion, as long as you are happy, healthy, and safe. As long as you're aware of the risks that can occur when having sex with multiple partners or having a lot of sex in general, especially if it's unprotected. As long as you are aware of those health risks, as long as you're aware of those risks, and I'd like to point out that a lot of those risks can happen even if you don't have sex. Thanks, sex education, for never telling us that. But as long as you're aware of those risks, as long as you're safe, as long as everyone involved in your sex life or in your non existent sex life is happy, safe, healthy, and consenting, it shouldn't matter at all. As long as you're responsible, as long as you're happy, healthy, safe, and consenting, as long as everyone in that relationship is happy, healthy, safe, and consenting, there
Yes.
should be no problem with how much or how
And
little
like,
sex you have.
great. And for I can't really speak for aces, but for arrows as well. If you're okay with doing things that are perceived by society as romantic, that doesn't make you any less arrow. That just means you have another person or people in your life that you enjoy doing activities with. And that's great. That's beautiful. Don't let society ruin that for you. Just be you.
And with that note, I'm going to end the video. Apologies for the stuttering. And again, apologies for my voice. Um, to all my Aloe allies, I hope you have a good day. To all my fellow Arrow Aces, I hope you have a wonderful day. To all my Aloe Aces, you keep doing you. And to all the Aloe Arrows who got lost along the way, not including Eli, I hope you enjoy your stay. Bye!